www.offthecorner.net. You're watching the Fact Project, and FACT, of course, is an acronym that stands for Fundamental African Centered Thought. Here on the DJ Tiger channel, shout out to DJ Tiger. Today we have joining us again for the second time in 3 weeks, Grand Queen Mother Warrior Pam Africa. Peace, Mama Pam Africa. Did I get it right that time?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Yes, indeed. You got it 100% right, and I'm up and I'm ready.
Nice. Okay, so today we want to talk about the MOVE bombing. The commemoration of the MOVE bombing is tomorrow. I don't want to say anniversary, because anniversary is something that sounds like very celebratory, right? So
yes, it is.
We're coming up on the 40th commemoration of the MOVE bombing, which was May 13th, 1985. Take us back to maybe even the 70s, before the final bombing of MOVE. Take us back to the beginning and just basically tell us who was the MOVE organization.
Who is
present tense, correct.
Never was. Never was.
Present tense, correct.
MOVE is a revolutionary, predominantly black organization. There is, when I say predominantly, that's exactly you know what I mean. There was Asians, there was Latinos, Puerto Ricans, there was in MOVE, there is white people, one white person that's in MOVE, and but MOVE set out, and MOVE's mission is to maintain a quality of life for all God's beings. And life, when I'm saying that, I'm talking about the air, the water, the soil, and people, and dealing with housing issues, dealing with, making people understand that a zoo is a concentration camp, for captive life. An elephant is captive, brought from Africa, brought in and put into a cage, for our entertainment. The alligator, the birds, everything that you see in, in these zoos that we go and glorify, thinking that this is something where they were going to save life. It's just like when this government came over into Africa and whatever other countries they wanted to be maimed, killed, tortured, with Africans, we were brought over here against our will, and other places, and all the conditions that arose, and had people, coming here, and you better believe that, the United States was behind all these different things here. So, John Africa mission was to show us that everything within this government that was created by this government is 100% wrong. And like the fight for equality in schools, the fight for air pollution, water pollution, and the toxins that they bring in the soil. Ain't but one way to stop that, but they found a whole nother way of raising money and offered these things, the problems that they cause, because what they did, instead of doing what was necessary, stop polluting and the air, they came up with the Clean Air Act. And that's exactly what it is. It's an act, because if they were actually doing things to clean the air, it would be going. Same thing with the water, the Clean Water Act, and the environment. It ain't but one way to stop, to get good soil and things that our food is supposed to, that our food come from, and that is to stop polluting it. But this is not the way of big business. Everything here is ran by a dollar. The fact that MOVE does not comb their hair, and it's in a style that is termed, dreadlocks. MOVE call it just uncombed hair, because in order to actually do the air, you got to pollute the water, what is called, the air and stuff, and all the things that this government use, to, pollute and all, we try to, eliminate those things. And all your hair must be washed, it must be maintained. But the chemicals that they use and don't, and all, because if you with dreadlocks, as they call them, and all, you don't need all those chemicals, and all, but they have actually glamorize the dreadlocks into the point that you use a lot of chemicals to maintain them when you didn't, you actually, don't need these things. So, you know, um, the school board move demonstrated against the school board, and in the early 70s, and all about the miseducation, of people, and all, because you trained to represent the thing and love the thing that is killing, that's causing all the problem, which is this, is this system. You're taught to, pledge allegiance to a flag, and all that doesn't mean, anything to you except the demise of it. You got people that will, black folks, indigenous folks, and all, that pledge allegiance to this flag that has caused all the problems that we have today.
Yeah,
And all,
let me jump in here and ask you this. The MOVE organization was started by John Africa.
yes.
Many of us, myself included, don't really know a whole lot about John Africa. Who was John Africa?
John Africa is the coordinator of the MOVE organization, and a lot of MOVE's teachings, is where we that we I'm sorry, I stopped to look at my phone because
No worries.
it's something that I need to be answering the phone for, that
Understood.
I didn't realize when we hooked this up, but that's not it. Um, um, John Africa is a black man, and whose name was Vincent Leopold, and the reason why he took the name Africa, and all, was simply behind the fact of strength, power, and all, it's the beginning, Africa. And all, so that's why the name Africa, was chosen. And all people, and all, we are the family Africa.
Okay, now let me ask you this, John.
Always giving reference to Africa.
John Africa had gone and fought in the Korean War. Did he pick up some of his vegetarian ways and some of his ideology in Korea?
I don't know. I know that he picked up things from, and and the disdain for this government, and all, from this actually living. Part of that came from there. The vegetarian, the raw food, and all, because Moon diet is one of raw food. He was pushing Moon people to eat the source, not the resource.
Yeah, so
And where he got to where he's at now, was living and seeing. I know that war wrinkled him to the core to see the murders of, friends that was there, and, the destruction of, people. And then you're like, what are we doing here?
yes.
And all, because when our people go into war, when most people go into war, they think that it's in protection of where we live. We got to do this, and go over here, maim, kill, bomb, other forms of life, and all, and one of the things that people forget about, when they go over there, just like this war in Palestine, not only are they killing the people in Palestine, the mothers, the fathers, the grandbabies, and all, but every form of life, that which you eat from, whether you're vegetarian or whether you're a person that eat meat, everything is poison there. So John Africa taught us to actually look at all life.
Okay, now
as one.
understood. Now,
And the important thing too, on May 13th, people always talk about the children. Then they talk about, the adults, but within those houses, were, and I'm not just talking about our home, because they emptied that block, you know, people left birds and cake. Cause they said you only be going a couple hours and then you be back. They knew it was a lie. They knew that they was going to bomb that area. It was all something planned ahead of time. But people left their cats, their dogs, their birds, their hamsters, every form of life, that was in those homes that were precious to people, were murdered as well.
okay, now I want to come back to May 13th, but first I want to say for the people that are in the chat, let me know if my audio is coming through okay, because I had to rig something different today, so we're doing something a little different. But we got Hassan Burton in the chat. He wants to know, where was John Africa when the home was being bombed?
He was in it.
He was in it.
He was murdered on May 13th.
Okay, so before we get to May 13th, there was an interaction between the MOVE organization and the police going as far back as the 1970s. What can you tell us about that?
Right, because of the demonstrations that MOVE was dealing with, with the Board of Education, dealing with politicians, dealing with so-called, because they will bring a celebrity into your area and they become like, your leaders, your followers, like, people follow basketball players and, people follow a lot of politicians who, don't really have your interests at heart. MOVE was about exposing these things. And, like I said, we demonstrated at the Board of Education and demonstrated on judges' homes, demonstrated on the homes of, the jailers, and demonstrated puppy powers, demonstrated at the zoos. And I remember as being one of those people who did not know and didn't understand. And I fully believed in the media and what it was that they were saying, because, why would they lie? This was my experience, and this is how I felt. I didn't find out differently that these are about some of the lyingest, filthiest, low life, and pushing the murder of people, the separation of children, and all this media. I'm talking about mainstream media. In '77. They would paint MOVE when MOVE demonstrated at the circus, and they said, "Oh, MOVE is talking about letting the animals, stay in the circus and just let them roam the street." And I'm saying that shit is crazy. Why would they do that? And why would you demonstrate against puppy powers? Why would you demonstrate against our Board of Education? MOVE was taking everything away that, me, myself, I believed in, and a whole lot of other people believed in. So the demonstrations with the circus every year when it came into town, and all, because they were saying that they was using that thing that they tap the elephant with, and to keep it, they just lightly tap it. They're electrocuting it. You seen it very plainly with the brother Rodney, I can't think of his name, when they just tased him. And they was doing it to animals first. And then, it became, we were so insensitive to that they started doing it to our people. And like right now, there's so many people that are dying from those tasings. And in order to make an elephant lift his foot up, and you stick your head up under it, and he know he better not drop that damn foot down, because of that electrocution. He held that foot up, and then the great white man put his head up under it. The one that make the animal, a lion, jump through a ring of fire. That is insane. But they told us to look at it as entertainment. What do they do to those lions to make them jump through fire? Yeah. They do that little tasing, the threat. But we see it as entertainment. We clap. And there's so many things like that, like seeing, babies in cages in the bright sun under glass from mesh wire. I'm talking about puppies. I'm talking about kittens that they will have in a window and us to go by and say, oh, look at Miss Q, this sleepy, it's over there. But, this is a child, this is a baby that was taken away from its mother. It was taken away from the father at birth, to sell for our enjoyment. And some people love them and take care of them. But let that puppy, let that cat scratch that furniture, pee on that floor. And, people throw them out. They throw them out. And then the thing is, remember when stray dogs and stuff would get into your garbage can and stuff, and and they put poison down. When we were so called, and I say so called, set free, by the people who had control over our lives through guns and torture things that they did to us strangers in a different line. When they freed us, we were shot. We didn't have food. We was just thrown out there. So, you had to go on the so-called Martha's line to get food. And if you got caught in a cornfield getting some corn, you was locked up, beat up, thrown in jail, and sometimes they just killed us. This is what they did, and then they invented the cop of that day. I can't think of what the name for them. And they would go, hunting, black folks who escaped from the land, or black folks who were set free and had stole some food. This is the thing that they do to cats and dogs. You very seldom see them in the street, anymore. Just like I was looking at this thing with the bear, and people talking about the bear is invading their property. This is where the bear lived.
Right.
We invaded. We built homes there and expect this bear to respect the fact that now I got my swimming pool here, I got my deck here, I got my 100 acres of land here, or 5 or 6 acres, and you ain't supposed to come here. Not realizing that we are the invaders.
Right.
And we will kill any form of life that come around messing with our stuff. And
So it's safe to say.
Taught to see these things.
So it's safe to say that Move were early animal rights activists, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so now there was an interaction with the police. I believe it was in the 1970s, before May 13th, 1985. What happened in that first dust up with the police?
Right. Well, that wasn't the first.
Okay.
That was the one that Boo said. When you come in here, you want to make sure that everybody see what it is that you're doing. Because Boo had been locked up, beat up, thrown in jail, thrown out of jail, and they were coming. And let me tell you, March 16th, 1976. And the police movement went to a demonstration. They locked, a lot of Move people up, and they released them late that night. And when they released them, when Move people see other Move people, especially when you was locked up and stuff, everybody come out the house, they greeting, they hugging, I did not like Move because of the media. Because of what I was told by these people living down the street, seeing one thing and being told that I was seeing something else. That night, they beat, when the Move people was greeting, people late at night, and cop cars came from, just imagine, a cross. And in the center of that cross is the Move house. Because cop cars was coming from every angle into that area. They said they got a call of disturbing the peace. There was no call other than when people was trying to call to stop them from killing Move. I talked with an elder And he was telling me that night he remembered just as plain as day. And he knew Move because he watched him from his window. He didn't have age. His name was Mr. Wallace. He used to sit there and watch movies, from that window. And he liked what he saw. He said, when the cops came that night, he said he seen them, get out the car, and he was talking to young Chuck Africa. He must have been about 15, maybe 16 at that time. He said, and then he saw the cops still Chucky, and automatically, your instincts tell you that you see what's getting ready to go down. You got to get ready for a fight. Ain't no such thing as try not to. They're not Martin Luther King people. He was not trained to, just accept that ass whooping. Excuse me, I didn't, But they fought back. But there was no way. If you fight, they beat you. If you don't fight, they beat you. And also they was trying. He told me he seen them beat Jerry Africa so bad. He said he actually seen Jerry just go completely out. He says, and then one of them kicked him in the back, and another one was kicking them in the front. A lot of people saw the beating of Delbert Africa on August 8th, 1978, but they did not see that wasn't a beating. That was a only beating. Just like throughout community, you see them beatings, on a daily basis on how they beat people, damn near to death. That's what they was doing, to them. And it wound up with a court case, on it. And they locked up some Move people that night. Disorderly conduct, all the things disturbing the peace, so forth and so on. And Move people was demonstrating, trying to get, Move people, out of jail. And May 20th of 77, I found out later, that the word was that the cops was going to come in at Move's headquarters again.
Okay, so now this is August 8th we're talking.
We're going into May 20th. What kicked off the August 8th confrontation.
Got it. Continue.
That was the beating, the murders, because May 13th was not the first time they killed Move babies.
Right.
They beat Move babies, and they beat them to death in the womb. Rhonda Africa had a baby, and they beat her. Her and Janet Africa was going to the store, and they beat them, locked them up. When Rhonda had her baby had black and blue spots all over it from the womb. They beat these women, and they would target, black women, that was pregnant in Move, and and beat them. May 20th of 1977, we got the word that they was coming, and that's when they came out. And I was shocked. I could not believe that the Mafias, because that's what I used to call them. I didn't like them. The Mafias on the corner was brandishing weapons. And then they got on the bullhorn, and they started talking. That's when I learned out what was actually going on with the zoo. What was actually going on. Who the hell demonstrated against the water? That was my thoughts back then. And how schools and stuff. But everything was laid out. And who these people were and what we was actually seeing. And this was May 20th, 1977. This was the big kickoff of when Move said there will be no more. They said, you come here with vanishing your guns, and they held theirs up, and they said, then come the fuck on. I'm just hoping. I don't know what your podcast is, what you can say and what you can't say, but I'm just quoting what I heard that day. And they said, if you want to come talk, and we'll talk. But if you want to come, with those blackjacks, they pulled up their baseball bats, and they again said, you can come the hell on with it, because no longer will you be able to kill, move people in secret. And when it's in the paper, it's always that Move started these fights, Move, started something because you was talking about, how we were being miseducated. Because Move started something because you weren't demonstrating at the reservoir. Move started something because you demonstrated at the Puppy Palace, the Board of Health, unsafe housing, things, and because we said, our mission is to expose these truths and expose the people that is hiding the real enemy from you. I'm listening to this, and I'm gonna skip past that. Well, what happened that day, I was really shocked because people who lived around there was telling me about a different move. I'm not that they was telling me, I'm listening. They said they don't mess with nobody. You can look at the August 8th tape, and it's on YouTube. Pull up the August 8th confrontation. Listen to what the people, the children in the neighborhood were saying, and of course there was people, who had a difference, had actually pulled up the cement and was turning and feeding the earth, and they had some of the blackest, purest soil because you fed it. Then they were saying, "Oh, we'll throw garbage in, in their back." We was putting stuff, like fruits, peelings and things, into the earth, turning it, making the soil rich. And, even during that time, white people was coming up, they saw that soil and they wanted to buy buckets of it. And we said, no, this is what you do. You go home, where you got them flower beds at, take a part of that land, feed that earth, feed that earth. So we was different.
So anytime, let me ask you this. Anytime the police were called, that was disturbing the peace. What was the complaint when the police arrived?
A lot of times they came when we had demonstrations. Oh yeah, it was definitely disturbing the peace. Whenever you wake people up, Jesus Christ was charged with disturbing the peace. Because he went in and he was teaching people, a different way of peace and love and understanding. So he got murdered for that. He got locked up for that. I'm just looking at my TV is on right now, and I'm looking at them locking up Mayor Ras Baraka, because he went down to the ICE, building where they're torturing, people that they just snatched off the street and sending them to different places, men, women, and children, going into schools, taking your children. It comes a time when you just can't take it no more. You got to take an action. So when he went as the mayor and wanted to look into these places, like I said, they manhandling him, and all these white, big, beefy ass cops, grabbing on him as if he ain't the mayor, wanting to see what's going on inside there. And he was, denying them it. And he said, I'm not leaving until. So I'm saying it's considered disturbing the peace when you want to right or wrong. Same thing that was happening with movies.
Okay, now let me ask you this. As it relates to disturbing the peace, word on the ground says that Move had a bullhorn attached to their house, and they were kind of broadcasting their message 24/7. Is that true?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And so
yes, it was.
A lot of people. Go ahead.
Yeah, see, a lot of people, didn't like it. May 13th and August 8th, but it reminds me of the woman that was in New York. She was being raped. She was being murdered. She was howling and screaming, and people threw the windows up and howling up, telling her to shut up. This woman was screaming for her life in the only way that she could at that time to bring attention. That's exactly what was happening, because Move had been every legal place that they could be to tell the story of what was happening and to Move people. And some people, and people was insensitive to it. I can understand people, because like if you talk about with Osage Avenue with the bullhorn, at first the people was with Move, and then They went down to Mayor Wilson Good and was complaining about the tactics that they were, doing to move. And, I'm talking about what they seen. They seen move people driving the truck, bringing food there, and snatched out the truck and beating the street. People knew about the beatings of Mo Africa when he would leave Philadelphia coming from the food distribution center, dropping off food on Osage, and then heading home with the food when he was, and the airport wasn't built up the way it is now. There was a lot of, land there that was not being used. They would catch him and beat him up and throw him down and throw the food on top of him down these things. It become a point where, what the hell do you do to bring attention? Media wasn't covered because the media is controlled by them. So you go out, and when people know and they attempt to do something, then after a while they say, well, look, it ain't nothing, they ain't going to do nothing. And also, Malcolm said, by any means necessary. Understand that. We didn't pick up a gun at that point. And to let you know something, on May 20th of 1977, we was in a year-long confrontation where they cut the water off. And despite the people protesting, and despite the people from city council, despite the ministers, despite all the community groups, and they put a blockade around, I think it was a 4 blocks each way around Move in the center, and they said it was to keep Move in. Well, Move had already said we ain't going no damn where. It was to keep the people out. Mm. And anybody who came into that area, you had to show ID. And, you talking about robbery. And people homes was robbed during that time. And people, was shaken down, and the young college students, because that was, we lived in that kind of area. Because not that it started off that we lived in a college area. The colleges, just like today, is expanding more and more, and they're taking people housing and things away for a damn dollar. And that's what was happening there.
Okay, so
so yes, Move was on the bullhorn, and Move regretted the fact that they had to go to those measures, but it did.
Yes, so now take us to May 13th, 1985. What sparked the bombing? Like, how did that day begin?
How did that day begin?
Yeah, for the MOVE organization. Like, did the police respond to a phone call? Like, how did the police arrive there on May the 13th?
No. This was a whole plan, because there was a confrontation going on between the city and MOVE. MOVE was demanding that they release, the people from the August 8th confrontation, which was when a cop by the name of James Ramp was murdered. And he was murdered with a cotton bullet going down the back of his neck. When MOVE is 6 feet underground, and they shot thousands of pounds of water. They shot thousands of pounds of bullets and things. And they want to say from that position where James Ramp was facing MOVE, and MOVE was 6 foot down, and that he got shot in the back of his head with a bullet traveling down him. And it was evident. They tore down the evidence, and tore the house down, tore the trees down, because they did not want people to see the damage that they did. And Osage, the same thing. That fire and stuff was to cover up the murder that they did of MOVE women and children. How did that start? And behind the fact that MOVE always, and still to this day, protest about the air, the water, the soil, protest about animals, protest about everything that's unsafe to God's being, life. And still that, and added to that was the release of the MOVE 9. And the protest, when MOVE wouldn't stop protesting, at judges' houses, at, the jails that was jailing them and mistreating them. And you know, there's no place that was sacred for them. That you got our people that we ain't coming. We gonna act just like you. We gonna call you the motherfuckers that you are. And you know, the baby killer, so forth and so on. The language was raw. It was captivating because I knew for a fact when I would be in front of City Hall just putting out information, you might get a few people, but the minute you call that mayor, you know, and you're pointing out that this motherfucker is here, what he did, and lay that stuff down, you get a crowd, you get people who's volunteering to, you know, get involved and stuff, and they start telling their story. We had, you know, they had to get rid of us.
Okay,
They
so
had to get rid of us.
So they
May 13th, and you know, we were doing the same kind of demonstrating about what was happening with Mo, and you know, and demonstrating about all, you know, about the people in the jails, and all, because they were viciously attacking our people in jail, viciously. They brought a force into that prison on December 3rd, 1980, I believe, and where they brought forces in. Someone from the prison, a guard from the prison, called on the Mary Mason show, which was a very well listened to radio station in Philadelphia, black radio station, on WHAT. And because we didn't know, and in fact, Mumia Abu-Jamal, Ramona Africa, and Laverne Africa was on her show when this guard called in, and he said somebody got to do something, you know. And he identified himself. He identified himself as a guard there, and that, you know, they are shooting water hoses in one side of the building, and oh God, and they formed a gauntlet, and you know, when move people had to go through, they was beating them, they was stabbing them with ice sticks, they was beating them with baseball bats, okay? And you know, and this came over the airways. You know, these are the things that led up to May 13th. And because Moon was protesting all of that, you can't get relief from the paper because the paper tell their story.
Sure.
You know, you could not, and you'll get a bite on a black radio station, and a lot of times they was telling they would get their information from UPI or API, whatever the alphabet, you know, that they use, and the CBS, NBC, and none of them, they all told their story. Mumia Abu-Jamal, and the Tribune at that time would tell the truth about, you know, what was happening, and that was beginning to wake some people up, and you know, we had to take a defensive stand, and you know, and you know, to get our people home. Move came like move come, and a Philadelphia, you know, administration who brought the FBI in, you know, the Army in, because they dropped a military explosive, and that C4, you have to get that from the government. You can't go, you know, and this wasn't, they threw hand grenades in the house in 1978.
Wow.
It has been an ongoing battle, you know, even to this day, they're going to come up with something, you know, because people are listening, you know, they're listening to what, and then, you know, people, Lynn Washington, who's a journalist, and you know, who me and him moved around the same time, and but he's a professor, Lynn Washington now. He's been through this whole thing. He did a podcast, and that tells you the behind the scenes things coming from black media, and the people who didn't speak out the way that they're speaking out now. When you hear, if you ever get to hear, you know, Lynn Washington, you know, you can look him up, Lynn Washington Jr. You could, you know, Google him, you know, because, you know, you'll be able to get to these things that, you know, came out, you know, and you hear the good, the bad, the ugly, and of what all happened here. Um,
Now, Mama Pam, let me ask you this: what began first on May the 13th? Did they start spraying the house with water hoses, or did they start shooting
no,
into the house?
no.
What began
They
first?
came and there was nothing happening. The neighbors and shit was getting along. I mean, the neighbors stuff was getting along really good at that particular point.
I'm saying when the police arrived.
Because the police had seemingly backed off, and Wu was warning people they're more dangerous now than they said. Well, that's over. They wanted to believe that, and they said, they're coming because they want to kill us. They want to wipe us out. People didn't believe it. Tell you what kicked things off. There's a tree. Tree had been there for life. I mean, for forever. I can always remember that tree. Beautiful tree in front of Moo's house. They sent some people in there to cut the tree down. They knew that would provoke food, because that is life, and we know the importance of that tree. So a confrontation, happened, Moo went out there, and then, 2 weeks later, and Mona was talking with the civil affairs person that was sent there, who always tried to be, friendly to us, but his fear of his bosses wouldn't allow him to actually be truthful with things. He filed charges saying Moo threatened his life, and they got an illegal warrant by Judge Lynn Abrams, who was the judge, who signed the illegal warrant for them to come to our home on August 8th. There was nothing going on there, just like there's nothing going on, here. When they got those warrants, Moo was not on the bullhorn, hadn't been on the bullhorn for about 2 weeks since the tree thing happened, and they hadn't been on. But they came on the bullhorn exposing what it was, and you're not looking at, just, somebody coming down to cut a tree. You're looking at the beginning of a confrontation, a justification for them to come in, and people was like, oh, come on now. Some people don't understand the importance of a tree and the tree in front of your home. So that's when they went to Judge Lynn Abrams 2 weeks later, got an emergency thing, and they came with, it was just unbelievable. They came prepared for war. First, they emptied all the houses out. They went through the block telling people that, they was coming in to remove, and, some people was resistant, to leaving their home with their everything. Just grab a bag and you'll be back in a couple hours. So people left everything. Everything that they had, their ID, their pictures, their oh man, what the motherfuckers, excuse me, what they did on that day. Our children was not there. Every Sunday, you go down to 9th Street. That's the Italian market where you can get bulk food. You got boxes of sweet potatoes, cases of spinach, cases of onions, the best fruits and things that, that they had down there. And the children were there, when they, started emptying out, when the children and the sisters who had went down, they took the kids down there, when they came up, they knew what they were going to do. They escorted her with the children back into the house. They intended to kill the children too. During this time that day, there was people who were going to move there that they wanted to talk to the mayor, they wanted to talk to, city managing director, about what's going on here. They never allowed it. You got these people telling these stories. First, Stan Moore came and said, attention, move, this is America. And it was the American way. come out, and who is coming out? You seen what they did to Delbert, what they did to Chucky, what they did to the women on August 8th, what you seen them, and it's on video when they snatched, can't think of which sister's baby, I think it was, I think it was, Debbie's baby, or one of the babies, and you know how they hold the pig up by the bottom of his feet and just let it hang?
Yeah, wow.
As they taking it to slaughter. You seen that?
Wow.
You seen that? You seen this freaking cop take this baby out of Debbie's arms and turn it upside, turn the baby upside down, and start walking away with it. This was on August 8th.
Wow.
They come up, come out. You know, no. People wasn't coming out. And and they was trying to negotiate with the government and high officials, people that was in media that was black, was attempting to deal with the mayor. They was holding press conferences and saying what Wu was saying, but they didn't cover them. I didn't know that they had press conferences until just the other day. When I heard about the event that was going on at Temple. Wu refused to come out. Wu was, putting out information about what was going on there. Why are they there? There's nothing going on here. And, so forth and so on. But they was explaining to people, you better get everything that you own. You said, because when they get finished, there's going to be nothing left. And they had been telling them that when them cops get ready to come in here, they're going to come in to kill us. But, people say, well, why don't you, you could have went here, you could have went there. Well, Move was in, Virginia, away from everything. He didn't even know it was Move there. But people loved Move, and they didn't know who they was loving on. They went down there and brought children back here to Philadelphia. They brought the women first. They took them captive. I'm talking about stuff that led up to May 13th. And you say, you didn't have a freaking enough. It's enough. You got to take a stand.
Yeah, so they dropped the
go ahead. When they couldn't get moved out, and before they did the water, they blew the entire front of the building out. They threw the whole, you look at it, and look, here again, you're dealing with somebody that's, that has murdered, who had robbed, was selling dope, but none of that stuff. You're dealing with some people who want to get people home, and justification, of it. And there was no thing that was going on between the neighbors and Move, because Move hadn't been on the bullhorn for 2 weeks. They misused the neighbors as their way of saying, well, we came in because of the neighbors. No, you didn't come in because of the neighbors. When the neighbors was going to Wilson Good and telling them about, what it was that they was living through, about the tax on Move and stuff, they hadn't even started the bullhorn stuff then.
So they dropped a bomb from a helicopter. The family was in the basement when the bomb got dropped? Do you know?
Yes, everybody was in the basement.
Okay, and the basement was flooding with water at this point, probably, right?
And, they blew the whole front of the house off, and if somebody had been in there, they would have been murdered. And the justification for bringing the bomb in, was to make an entrance into so they can put tear gas in there. But they had already blown, here's the whole front of the house. What more of a damn entrance do you want?
Now, there was also...
The front of the house was blown into the street before they dropped the bomb. And then when they dropped the bomb, they said that they was letting the fire burn, and then it had really caught on, a big fire and inferno. Mona was saying, and people who were, Mona was saying she was in the house. She's the only adult survivor. And even Bertie, who was I think he was 13 years old, because two people survived that. That was Rona Africa and Bertie Africa.
That's crazy. So now people were trying to come out of
something, because like when you do these interviews and stuff, you relive this stuff.
Sure.
You see the faces. You see the faces of the children and things, and they're trying to escape the house, and we coming out. You have a reporter, and who I guess at another event, one in Washington put on, and this reporter said, in fact, all the black reporters was not called to come to Osage. How they found out is that some people called them, and this one reporter for the photography and stuff for the Inquirer, he was there. He said he wasn't called. He came in and early at the earlier part of it, and was taking pictures and things. And then when they said that they wanted everybody back, and he managed to get in the house of somebody, and before they made sure that everybody evacuated, he hid in there, and what he did, he had put a microphone, he was making sure that he can get to windows so that people can see him and tell him to get out. He was there when the children, they said they're coming out. He said he could defy it. And it wasn't no pop guns.
It was rapid fire.
And he said then you wouldn't hear nothing for a while, and that fire was so hot. And your people just had to come out, but they had been staying saying that they were coming out long before then. And if it hadn't been for this reporter who had that God give that thing, you gotta be the one. And he said, shoot, here he is, in the midst of a war zone. They even blew the front of a house off. The cops was dressed to kill. There was no mistake about that. And he got his thing, and he, when they said that the children, when the word came on that the children was coming out, and that's when they fired. They killed everybody. And I'm telling you, it was a God-given, it was an ancestral inspired. Everything that was godly was there that day. It brought the two out to tell the story.
Now, Mama Africa, Pam Africa, let me ask you this.
Immediately separated from Bertie.
Let me ask you this.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to cut your wisdom, but who ordered the bombing from a helicopter? Was that the mayor?
Well, they went to the mayor and they said that there was, want to drop what is it called, an entry device, because they had to knock the bunker off the top of the house. And, they tried it with water hose and stuff. It was clearly nobody was up on that top floor. They knew that everybody, here's another thing that I found out. And when they went to the middle part, they was trying to shoot through the walls. But Move had reinforced those walls and they couldn't do it. That's why they blew the front of the house off, because Move had fortified their home as a protection from them. In order to get in here, you had to do some terrible work. And they, who ordered it? It was, Gregor Sambo and all them, and let me tell you who Gregor Sambo was. He's a military policeman, and he was the police commissioner. He was the head of the police department at that time. And then there was another one that I can't think of his name, right now, but Leo Brooks. When Mayor Good came in, he brought in a military journal from the Pentagon, Leo Brooks. He was the master planner of this. This is what he do. He's a military man. That's how they were able to get the C4 and from the military.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
Yeah.
All right.
And everybody that he hired in that administration and was because Leo Brooks once the mission with Move was over, he went back to the Pentagon.
Oh wow! And so now, didn't they burn the whole block down? How much got burned?
They burned to kill, Move, and to cover up what they did. They burned a whole block and a half. Everything on Osage on both sides of the street had to be sure that was that, and then on the back street, Pine Street.
And so this was a predominantly black neighborhood. So other
this
black.
was a 100% black neighborhood.
So other black families.
And it was the work, it was a good, it was right there, Cobb's Creek, and these were all, working people, and who,
Yes, so other black families lost their home. It wasn't just Move that day that lost their home.
No, wow. 67 homes was destroyed.
Wow. See, that's wow. Yeah, see, those are things we don't hear. Mama Pam Africa. That's why we're grateful to have you on today. So now,
and not only did Move lose their homes, but birds lived in them trees.
That's right. So the animals lost their home.
So and they lost their lives. No. And are trapped in a fire, with no way out because people locked their doors, thinking that they were coming back.
Oh wow, yeah, no, I get it. So tomorrow is the 40th anniversary of the Move bombing, May the 13th. What events are taking place tomorrow in the city of Philadelphia?
Well, there's been a lot of events going on leading up to, like Len Washington, he put on his event last Thursday. And there was an event this weekend Saturday, because May 13th falls on a Tuesday. So there was people that was brought to one art here in Philadelphia, and it was exposing and people just spoke out about different things that they witnessed and saw and how this affected them. And May 13th is going to start off at Community College. And young Mike Africa Jr. put together a exhibit, and he talked with Community College, and they gave him the okay, and they wanted to have this week long. It's from Thursday, I believe, until the last day on it. It's from Tuesday to Friday. And where he be teaching about what went on during that time with documents showing people, things, showing people, because it's 6 children. You got to visualize. You got to see Tommaso. You got to see Tree. You got to see Netta. You got to see these children. Not only the children, but the adults. And you got to see that as well, and and what the neighbors were saying and things, so that's going to be going on this week. But tomorrow it kicks off at Community College tomorrow morning, and then at 5 o'clock at Osage Avenue, and we always do a never forget remembrance. I was just listening to the news this morning, and there's something else that's going on, and because a committee was formed on May 13th, and to never forget Move, and they've been doing things, each year. It's a bunch of Quakers. They're having a panel thing tonight. I just found that out listening to the news this morning, because everything in Philadelphia is the Move bombing and leading up to it. So those events are going to be happening.
Okay, so now do you think they had the black mayor order the bombing because he was black? That was sort of like a shield to protect them, to put a black face
that's
on?
why he was put there.
Okay.
And just like Obama was put in position when they killed Gaddafi.
That's correct.
They always set it up, and there's no mistake that right now you see the heads of the different military and stuff, they're black folks. Right. Because they're going into Africa. Yep. They're trying to kill this brother Ibrahim Touré. And the story never ends. And I really wish that people, because we still talking about the murder of people and how they set it up, because this brother threw the French, the United States out of Africa in their area, and more people is taking on that, and they're doing for self and showing that it can be done. We don't need them. They've been leading us.
That's right. And they link in with Mali and Niger also, so they
Yes.
Yes.
Have you done a program on that yet?
Not yet. I got to get the right expert on that, but I think I'm gonna go to Charles Barron on that because he's.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting ready to say. Yeah. Did you see Charles Barron up in Manhattan when they had the demonstration last week? It was Africans, the brother wanted Africans to rise up everywhere, and the speakers was all Africans, I'm not talking about Africans that was brought over here, and there was another demonstration that we had too in support of it with December 13th. But Charles Barron and Omar Wally from December the 13th, they were speakers because, see, they've been involved in this thing for years. Yes, Charles Barron and Omar, oh gosh. Yes. Make sure I know about that show.
I will send it to you. But Mama Pam Africa, we are out of time. The hour is up, and I know you're super busy. We do appreciate your time, your insight, and your input. And we want to call on you again in the future, if that's okay.
I'm available anytime you call.
Nice.
I'm available anytime you call.
Yeah, and you actually answered.
I had to change a very important appointment. I forgot about it, and then it was like, okay, which one do you do? Yeah. Do you call him and tell him that I can't do it because the appointment starts at 10:15, starts at 10:15, wow. And so you were my choice. Wow. I'll call them and reschedule, because the timing was just that. I want to say this before we hang up. Right. Out of Philadelphia, we're taking a bus up to New York to Malcolm X's grave site. This is the 100th celebration of his birth. And people are coming in from all over. If you know anybody in the Philadelphia area, call them and tell them. I'll give you my number because I can't think it is 267-760-7344, and I will be able to give people more information about the bus. Sister Filet from the Million Woman March, and the mother of that, and she has vans going up, and
Sister Filet out of Philly.
Yes. She has a van that's going up, and I hope she wind up having to get a couple more vans. But Sister Basima from the UNIA, she got a 50-passenger van that we're working on filling up. Okay. And if anybody can make it up there or wherever they're doing something to celebrate and Malcolm X 100th centennial and celebrate his mama.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother story there. A powerful story of who his mother and father was.
Yes, Louise and Earl Little. They were Garveyites.
Ooh, yes, I love you. You full of information. You full of fight. You full of black power. And oh man, brother, I'm so glad that you got in contact with me.
Yes, and we're grateful for you. I appreciate you, and we love you back.
Oh, all right now. Okay, so we're ending up, right?
Yeah, we're closing out now. We're going to thank you for being on, and we're going to bring you back again soon.
All right, looking forward.
All right, Mama Pam Africa, thank you again.
All right, love, not fear.
Yeah, all day. Peace.
Yeah.
That was the great Mama Pam Africa. I want to thank everyone in the chat for chiming in the chat. We had Bot Ricks, of course, Hassan Burton. We had Gorilla Manga Music, salute, and Thul Sadum. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But just encourage everybody to check us out again next Monday. Check out all the programming here on Full Blast Radio. And if you want to check out some other things, you can always go to offthecorner.net The website again is offthecorner.net. We need to do some updates, but you can go there and get more information, see music, videos, and everything else like that. So just check us out next week. Peace.